Hello, I'm Rebecca Flaherty, and this week we're going to be making the last in our mini-series of classic patterns in Procreate. We've tackled all of these patterns before, and today we're going to be looking at this hexagon pattern. And I'm going to say right from the beginning that we are going to DEFCON 1 in terms of nerd levels for this pattern, so it is definitely an advanced level 1. Also, sharing this pattern is in some ways quite scary on a personal level for me, because you're about to see what a complete pattern-obsessed geek I am. I've had a minor obsession with creating a proper mathematical hexagonal repeat in Procreate for longer than I should probably admit to. I've searched and searched for tutorials, but I couldn't find anything that properly used snapping and like mathematically perfect hexagons and didn't just rely on eyeballing it. I just almost given up, and then a few weeks ago I had a brainwave and I cracked it. The first problem was that just even drawing a hexagon, a perfect hexagon with nice 60-degree angles, wasn't really possible, because the closest you could get was using a canvas, making a drawing guide, and then using an isometric grid. And you can make it snap to those lines, but you've got no way of making it actually perfect. So that was a non-starter. You can get around that by using a ready-made shape stamp that you've made in other software, but even if you're prepared to compromise and not have it 100% made in Procreate, you then still can't make that perfect hexagon snap to a repeat. Let's just turn off the drawing guide a moment and find this one, which is a perfect hexagon. So this one here is a perfect hexagon, and to get this to snap, what I realised was that I needed a node kind of there to be able to snap things to it. Whereas in Procreate it just puts a box around it and you can only snap to the corners or halfway, whereas I realised I needed a node in here to be able to snap to. So I came up with a really convoluted way of making this of separate shapes, still having that perfect 60-degree angle there, and then we can use that for snapping. And so that is the basis for this pattern. I know you can use vector software to make geometric patterns, but there's something really satisfying about figuring out how to make them in Procreate too. So I'm sharing this tutorial purely for the method, and because I haven't ever been able to find a tutorial like this on the internet anywhere when I've wanted one. It's way less hassle to make a hexagon repeat if you have Adobe Illustrator, I'm not denying that, but it's good fun to have a go at making one in Procreate just for the fun of it, because we finally can. So with all that in mind, let me show you how I did it. So I'm going to come out into the gallery, and I'm going to start in a 3600 pixel canvas, which is the size I normally work in. We will be cropping this down later though. So the way I'm going to make my hexagon, I'm going to make it with 2 right angle triangles here, a rectangle in the middle, and then another 2 right angle triangles there. These will all be exactly the same size, and the tricky parts are, so I know these bits are all going to be right angles. These ones are also going to be right angles. Siri, what are the internal angles of a hexagon?
Here's an answer from wikipedia.org. All internal angles are 120 degrees.
I know the internal angles of a hexagon are 120 degrees, so I need this one to be 60 degrees, and I need this one to be 30 degrees. So that when that 90 and 30 add up, we get 120, and when that 60 and this 60 add up, we also get 120. So let's add a layer, hide this one, and I'll show you how I get those perfect right angle triangles to start with. So we're going to fill this layer. Then we're going to tap transform. I've got nearest neighbour at the moment for my interpolation method, and I'm going to start with an 1800 pixel box, so just snapping it into that corner will give me an 1800 pixel square there. So then I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'll just invert the colour so we can see the difference. I'm going to tap transform, and then I'm going to rotate this 30 degrees. So now I've rotated this 30, so I know that this angle here is now 30 degrees and this one here is 60 degrees. So that is what I'm going to be using for my right angle triangle. So to get that, I'm going to select this green one, tap onto the blue layer, and then just drag that middle out there. Then we can hide this, we don't need that anymore, we can get rid of that. And then I've got these perfect right angle triangles with a 30-degree angle there and a 60-degree angle there. I can use my select tool, and I'm going to get rid of these two. because we don't need those. And then this one, I'll just cut and paste to another level. Right, so now we can line these up on the center of the canvas. So let's snap this one to the middle there. And then this one we can put there and flip it around that way. So now we've got that perfect 60-degree angle for the corner of our hexagon. The next hurdle to tackle is how long does this need to be, this rectangle in the middle, in order to be the same length as that. And again, this next part is kind of embarrassing because it just feels so extra for making a pattern in Procreate. But yes, I use Pythagoras theorem to work out how long this edge is. So if I select this triangle here, tap on the dimensions, we've got 380 pixels by 659. So I'm just going to reach up here and use my calculator. So we've got 380 squared plus 659 squared equals 578,681. I'm going to find the square root of that, which is 760.71. We can round that up to 761. So if I make a rectangle 761 pixels wide, that should make the right dimensions for in there. So let's fill there and unconstrain this, and we'll make the width 761. And we can snap that to the top of that triangle there. Then I'm going to change this to freeform and just drag this up there and snap it to the bottom of that triangle there. Then we can zoom in and make sure that that's lining up there and that that's looking all right there. I'm going to invert the colours on this so we can see all the different pieces. So now we can flip these and use these for that side of the hexagon. So duplicate that, tap transform, drag it over here, flip it horizontal and just make sure that it lines up there. And then do the same with this bottom one. Duplicate, bring that over there, flip it horizontally, and just make sure that that's all lined up there. So there, that is now as perfect as you're ever going to get it hexagon in Procreate. So I'm going to group all of these together now. And then I'm going to center this on the canvas. Next, I'm going to duplicate this group and flatten it. And I'm going to hide the group with the layers underneath. I'm going to alpha lock this layer and I'm going to fill it with white. And I'll turn the background color off now. So then I'm going to duplicate this layer and I'm going to fill this one with this light blue color. Then I'm going to tap transform. I'm going to turn the interpolation method to bicubic. And I'm going to reduce this by 200 pixels on the width and the height. So where it's 1521, I'm going to make it 1321. And then I'm going to make this 1118. So that's made it smaller uniformly, so we can now center this on the canvas as well. So now we've got a flat hexagon here. We've got a flat one on top that's slightly smaller and the same size as this white one. Put this underneath and show this. We've got these which we can grab, and these are going to have these points in there which we can snap to. So we can keep that hidden underneath. That doesn't have to be part of our pattern, but by having those layers there, it's going to give us those points to snap to, which I'll show you now. So I'm going to group these together, and we do need to leave all the layers intact. So this is going to be quite layer intensive pattern. So what I'm going to do is turn these two off and have this one on for doing the snapping. And I'm going to leave it like this whilst we work so that you can see exactly what's snapping to what. Then after we have everything in place, we can come back in and turn these on. So let's duplicate this. And the first one, we're going to snap up to the edge of that one. Then we can duplicate this bottom one again and snap it down there. The edges of the repeat aren't the right size yet, so we'll come back and crop this down later. So this bottom one again, I'm going to duplicate. And this is the part that was previously just I couldn't do in Procreate, was to be able to snap this properly in that gap there. And the reason we're able to snap this is because the corner of this box here is snapping to that mark on this one there. So let's carry on building these out now. So I'll keep working off this one on the bottom. So you can put this one in now. And then one over on this side. And then we'll stop there and turn these on so that you can see how this is looking. So now we need to work out where we need to crop this to. So if I draw a layer on the top, I can show you kind of where it needs to go. So we want it to end here. This is going to be where the top of the tile comes, and this will be where the bottom of the tile comes. And then we also want it to end halfway through this one and halfway through this one. So this will be our repeat. So let's get rid of that. So the way we work out how tall this needs to be, we can use these individual triangles from this one and this one. So we need to find the top layer and bottom layer. So I can use this one and this one, select those both, and then I know that the height of this selection is the height of my repeat. So I can tap that and it's 2636. So I'll add a new layer up here and write 2636 for the height. Then we need to find out the width, and we can use the rectangles on these two boxes for that. So I'll just collapse those down. So I think this one, duplicate that, tap transform, and I'm going to cut it in half on the edge here. I'm going to alpha lock it and make it pink so we can see where it is, and then I'm going to snap it to the edge of that box. So now we've got a middle point in the middle of the hexagon there. Then I need to figure out which one this is. That one there. So let's hide those two. Let's put that one in there, and we can snap that to this one there. So now we can select both of these pink layers. And the width we've got there is 2283. So we can add that to our measurement up here. 2283 for the width. So now we can go to our canvas settings and go to crop and resize, tap on settings, turn snapping on, and we want the width to be 2283 and the height to be 2636. Tap done, and then we can center this on the canvas there. So now we've got this cropped down, we can hide that, and then we just have to go through and hide everything apart from these white and blue ones. And then we can put our background colour in as white. You can come up to the top here, swipe down with 3 fingers, tap copy all, swipe down again and tap paste. I'm going to collapse all these groups and then put those in a group of their own just to tidy those up. Then I'm going to hide this and make the background colour something nice and dark so we can see if there's any gaps in this. So the only one tiny issue with this is that my canvas dimensions are now an odd number instead of an even number. So when I snap this up to the middle, those snapping lines will still be orange there, but can you see how that's hovering between 1141 and 1142? Go for the larger number of those two on the width or the height if you had like an odd number there for your canvas dimensions. So I'm going to have that to 1142. And then we shouldn't get a gap. If you had a perfectly even number for both of your canvas dimensions, you wouldn't have a problem with that. But sometimes that's just what happens. So we can zoom in and make sure that we don't have a seam there. and that's looking okay. So then we can pinch those together, duplicate and snap that down to the bottom there. And then again, just zoom in and make sure that's all okay. Then you can pinch those together and keep making this smaller as you want. There you go. And that is our honeycomb repeat in Procreate. As I said, don't worry at all if you got lost there. This is complete nerd level pattern making and really not necessary because, as I said, you can use Illustrator, you can use Affinity to make much easier geometric patterns. But I don't know, if you're like me and you like pushing Procreate to do more than you would think is possible with it, then I thought you might enjoy seeing how I made this. Anyway, that is how to make a perfectly geometric and mathematically perfect hexagonal repeat in Procreate. Now it's out there for all the world to see how completely nerdy I am. Never mind. That's all for this week. Have fun, stay creative, and I will see you next time.